From our fellow Catholics, best wishes. We are delighted to have you return to our channel. I hope you have a wonderful day in Christ. In order to keep up with the most recent information, we hope you enjoy this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Take a trip with us and watch this film through to the conclusion. A critical message that is impossible to ignore is being sent to humanity as 2024 draws near. The Virgin Mary's revelations, especially those from Medjugorje, indicate a major spiritual turning point. No matter where a person is in their spiritual journey, these messages are a call to action, not just a warning. The predictions indicate that we are about to embark on a period of purification that will put our religion and the moral underpinnings of our society to the test. It will be crucial to be spiritually equipped to handle these difficulties. This essay will discuss the Virgin Mary's profound insights, the significance of the events that will take place in 2024, and how you can mentally and spiritually get ready for what is ahead. This is a message of hope, a manual for strengthening one's spirituality, and an appeal to go back to the core of one's beliefs. 2024 is predicted to be a pivotal year for humanity. 3 calamitous calamities are foretold by the Virgin Mary, and each one will put our integrity, faith, and ability to endure spiritual hardships to the test. These incidents are not only isolated incidents, rather, they are indicators of a more extensive process of divine purification that is about to take place. The goal of the purifying process is to rid the world of its increasing moral deterioration and restore humanity to the divine truth. We must act immediately because we are on the cusp of these profound changes. The lessons stress that people who are ready, spiritually aware, and firmly rooted in their faith will be better able to handle the difficulties that lie ahead. On the other hand, people who disregard these cautions risk being caught off guard and overpowered by what is about to happen. We cannot afford to be complacent at this time. It's a clear call to action. Get your heart, mind, and spirit ready for 2024. We can confidently face the upcoming hardships if we take action now, because we will be strengthened spiritually. The warning concerning the moral degradation in the world today is one of the most important parts of the Virgin Mary's message. The pervasiveness of lust, which is characterized as a spiritual poison that erodes people's innocence and erodes the foundation of society, is a particularly clear example of this deterioration. In this view, lust involves a wider spiritual perversion that goes beyond simple sexual wants. It pulls people into a vicious circle of ego, greed, and moral decay, and drives them away from a life of virtue. This poison of passion is especially harmful to young people, whose hearts and minds are still developing, as the Virgin Mary notes. They are constantly exposed to messages that exalt materialistic pleasures and immediate fulfillment, further alienating them from the principles that formerly supported society's cohesion and strength. The symptoms of this moral crisis are already evident in our daily lives. The distinction between good and wrong has become hazy, and values that were previously regarded as sacred have been trivialized. The Virgin Mary makes it very evident that this expanding moral issue is a component of a greater spiritual conflict that has to be addressed right away. The basic basis of morality is under attack in the times we live in. We run the risk of losing what little moral and spiritual integrity we still have if we do not fight the forces of evil. In response to the perils of this deterioration, the Virgin Mary exhorts us to recommit to a life of virtue, prayer, and faith. The worrying fall in religious vocations is another urgent issue that the Virgin Mary tackles. Priests, nuns, and other spiritual leaders are among the fewer people who have dedicated their lives to religious service in recent years. Communities become more susceptible to the escalating powers of confusion and darkness as a result of this degradation, which also erodes the Church's spiritual foundation. Society runs the risk of descending into greater spiritual turmoil if we don't have strong spiritual leaders to lead and guard us. The message of the Virgin Mary highlights the need of religious vocations in preserving the Church's and society's spiritual vitality. These leaders provide direction, encouragement, and the sacraments that feed the soul, acting as lights in the dark. However, the Church is facing a crisis that jeopardizes its capacity to offer this essential spiritual leadership as the number of religious vocations declines. Who will celebrate the Eucharist in the absence of priests? Who will lead the faithful in prayer and devotion in the absence of nuns and other religious leaders? The rising spiritual disconnection in society is reflected directly in the reduction of vocations. It is a sign of a more serious problem that needs to be addressed if we want to maintain the spiritual basis of the Church. In addition to praying for more religious vocations, the Virgin Mary exhorts us to actively assist and uplift those who feel called to a life of service. We may contribute to rekindling the faith of the next generation by highlighting the importance of religious life in our families and communities. The warning of divine vengeance is arguably the most sobering aspect of the Virgin Mary's message. Her revelations indicate that this anger would materialize as a purifying event that will rid the globe of the evil that has taken root. Human faith will be put to the test during this event, which will also serve to distinguish between those who have fallen prey to the forces of evil and those who are walking in God's light. The impending purifying is a required act of divine justice rather than a punishment. It is a reaction to the world's spiritual imbalance that has been permitted to worsen. According to the Virgin Mary, a spiritual crisis has been brought on by the powers of lust and the fall in religious vocations, and it can only be remedied by divine intervention. Humanity will face many challenges during this cleansing period. But there is also a chance for atonement. Those who have aligned themselves with God's plan and are spiritually prepared will come out of this purification stronger and more resilient. However, the severity of the upcoming events may overwhelm individuals who disregarded the warnings and did not prepare. The Virgin Mary provides 3 crucial spiritual resources to help people get ready for the impending purification: prayer, the Eucharist, and support for the priests. These 3 elements are essential for developing the spiritual resilience required to face the challenges that lie ahead. Prayer, with a focus on the Rosary. The strongest defense against the forces of evil is said to be prayer. The Rosary, a prayer that deepens our faith and links us to the heavenly mysteries, is emphasized by the Virgin Mary. Our hearts and minds should be protected from the impact of evil by making prayer a regular habit. The Eucharist. The Eucharist is a source of divine sustenance rather than just a ceremony. We become closer to Christ and acquire the fortitude to fend against spiritual assaults as we partake in the Eucharist. Because the Eucharist is a spiritual stronghold that will support us through hardships, the Virgin Mary exhorts us to partake in it as often as possible. Encouragement of the priesthood. Lastly, the Virgin Mary exhorts us to encourage religious vocations and support the priesthood. The sacraments, such as the Eucharist, are unavailable to us without priests, and the Church's capacity to offer spiritual direction is weakened. We need to pray for priests, assist them in their work, and inspire young people to think about a career in religion. In addition to being a call to action, the Virgin Mary's message is one of hope. We can't wait for 2024 to happen before we start getting ready. Now is the moment to take action. We can fortify our spiritual basis and confidently confront the future by integrating prayer, Eucharistic participation, and support for the priesthood into our everyday life. We must continue to be watchful as the purification draws nearer. The forces of evil will attempt to divert and discourage us. but we can maintain our faith by using the resources that the Virgin Mary has given us. Purification is a chance for rejuvenation rather than something to be feared. Prepared people will come out of this period stronger, their faith polished like gold in the furnace. 2024 is predicted to be a watershed year for humanity. The revelations from the Virgin Mary provide us with a roadmap for overcoming the next spiritual obstacles. We can shield ourselves and our loved ones from the upcoming difficulties by paying attention to her cautions and accepting the 3 spiritual keys she offers: prayer, the Eucharist, and support for the priesthood. This is an extremely important moment. We must decide whether to answer the Virgin Mary's summons and get ready for the future, or to disregard the warnings and run the risk of being unprepared. In order to face the purification with hope, confidence, and the assurance that light will prevail over darkness, let us decide to strengthen our spiritual selves. I appreciate you joining me on this adventure. This investigation is significant and powerful because of your participation and presence. May the shared tales of our human experience inspire and uplift you until the next time.